What's up, guys? I think we can all agree that there's a lot of people in the world right now who are trying to take control of their finances again, but it's either too confusing, too intimidating, or they just don't know where to start. And to be honest, I can completely relate myself. About 5 years ago, I was sleeping on my best friend's couch with $75,000 in student loan debt and really no plan to get out of it. But fortunately, in that time, I've built a multi-million-dollar business that I run completely from my house, and I'm able to travel the world and pretty much live on my own terms and be able to control my own time how I want to. And I want to kind of share my framework that's helped me be able to reach that place in my life. And it's really broken down into 5 steps that you can also use to start taking control of your finances again. So the first one that I like to share is identifying what is your actual financial blueprint for yourself. And the reason why I share this and I go into an exercise is because we all talk about how we want to make money, right? You hear all these people say, I want to make money, I need to make money, how much does that job pay me, how much can I make from that business? But the truth is you don't really want to make money, you want to spend money. Right? The whole point of money as a utility, as a tool, is to be spent. Because if you're just trying to make money your whole life, but you never spent any of it, the actual function of that money would be obsolete. It wouldn't even make a difference. So the truth is, the reason why you want the money in the first place is so it can be spent. Now, if you have no more money and it can't be spent, that's when you're in a tough situation. So here's the exercise that I use for people that I work with to help them identify their financial blueprint. I try and challenge them to identify how much money they've spent their whole life. Here's what I mean by that. From the day you were born till right now you watching this video, if you had to guess, if you had to make an estimate, what's the amount of money that you have spent from birth till now? How much did it spend to live in the house you're living in? How much did it spend to have the food that you ate, even the baby food as a kid? How much is your current rent right now? How much did that vacation cost? If you had to total up the total amount of money that has been spent for your current quality of life for you as an individual, what would that number be? Would it be $1 million, $100,000, $10,000? Whatever that number is, that is your financial thermostat. That's your place in our economy and our society that dictates the amount that was needed to handle all of your sufficient needs to this place as of right now. Now, that number is different for every single person in life, but if you can challenge yourself to identify what that number is for you, imagine getting to a point in your life where whatever that number is from birth till now, you get to a point where that money's coming in every single year. Could be intimidating, but that exercise allows you to understand it's not just about what's being made, it's about understanding what is being spent for yourself. So with these different expenses that are being spent, there's really 2 different categories. There's automatic expenses and there's manual expenses. So automatic expenses are ones that are coming out of your accounts every single month if you do nothing, right? If you were to sit in a chair or a couch for 24 hours a day for 30 days straight and do absolutely nothing, sit on your butt, eat pizza, whatever, what amount of money is coming out every single month no matter what you do? We got to figure out what that number is. The other is manual expenses, which are also equally important. This is the number that you have to figure out, kind of the average number. It's the ratio. It's your gas. It's when you eat out. It's when you go to a movie. It's when you go on different experiences. It's things that are not always consistent every single day on certain months, but you do have to make those expenses as well on a monthly basis. When you figure out what those 2 numbers are, you're going to identify a specific number, and that's what's really important to know. If you don't even know what that number is, then how are you going to be able to reach a point in your life where you're financially independent? So the first part of this exercise to take control of your financial independence, your financial freedom, your finances in general, is to figure out what is that number for you. The second piece is to analyze your debt. Now, if you don't have debt, awesome. But frankly, the majority of people in the United States at least do have debt, and sometimes it can be really, really intimidating. With your debt, you want to snowball that debt, which means identifying the different interest rates. Myself, when I was 18, I got student loans, and to be honest, I was really too immature to understand the level of loans that I got and how much they actually cost and the interest payments on those loans. But as I started to understand that the loans I had, there was a couple of different brackets, each bracket had a different APR. So what I did was identified what was the highest interest rates. If one's 8% a year and another's 3% a year, I'm going to work on paying off the one that's 8% a year so that I can get rid of that interest payment as fast as possible that's higher yielding, because really all that's doing is helping you get deeper into a financial burden. So as you snowball those different financial debts that you may have, it'll get to a point where you eventually have each one paid off and covered. The other thing you're going to want to take control of is your credit cards. Now, if you're already using credit cards or you're in credit card debt, that's what you're going to want to take control of first, and make sure you make those payments as fast as possible, because the interest on credit cards can be really, really steep, and they're normally steeper than an auto loan or a student loan. And credit cards are one of those things where they can be very powerful, but they can also be very dangerous. If you're at a point where you do have consistent income coming in, whether it's from a business or a job, whatever it may be, it's really important to put all of your expenses on your credit cards, but be disciplined to pay it off every single month. If you can successfully do this and be disciplined to do it, then you're going to be able to scale your credit, which can be used to be able to leverage institutions' capital and be able to actually get loans out on much smaller interest rates that you can use in different facets to help build your wealth. But we'll cover more on this later. I just really want to emphasize and point in that this is what's going to define you. If you do not get control of your debt, especially credit card debt, it can be easy to get enslaved by institutions and different systems that are going to hold you in bondage with your finances. So take control of your debt, take control of your finances through mastering the payment process and paying down the biggest interest rates first, and then breaking each one down from there. When you decide what credit cards to use, you want to have ones that actually give you really good points as well. So personally, I use the Chase Sapphire and the Amex Platinum because there's a ton of travel perks that go with it, and I'm able to make those monthly payments and start building not just my credit, but the points that I can use on traveling, flights, and other experiences as well. My next tip I give people is to learn your ratios. And here's what I mean by this. Once you've identified what your monthly expenses are when you combine your automatic expenses and your manual expenses together, we want to identify how much money do you need coming in every single month that will cover that same amount of your expenses. And what I do with this is I give a ballpark ratio for people as an exercise so they can actually start applying this themselves. And I call this the 10-6-3. I want you to imagine if you had investments that had a 10% yield per month, an investment that had a 6% yield a month, or an investment that had a 3% yield a month, how much total money would you need based off those yields to make the amount of money every month that covers your expenses? So we'll go into an actual example with this as an exercise so you can then replace those numbers with your own with that 10-6-3 rule. So let's go into this 10-6-3 ratio and explain how it actually works. Let's pretend your monthly expenses, combined automatic and manual, is $5,000 a month. That means if you needed to make a 10% a month investment to cover your expenses, you need $50,000 invested into different assets, yielding a 10% return to equal your $5,000 a month expenses. If it was a 6% month, it would be $83,000 invested to make $5,000 a month to cover your expenses. And if it was 3% a month, it would be about $166,000 invested, and 3% return on that $166,000 is going to be $5,000 a month. Why is this so important? Because if you don't know how much money you spend every month, and you don't know how much money you need to have invested every month, and then getting a return each month in order to cover that balance, then you're going to be too vague. There's too much ambiguity. You're going to be going through your finances without an actual definite plan. So you have to identify what that monthly expense is, and once you know that monthly expense, figure out how much money would you need to be saved up or invested if you're doing 10% months, if you're doing 6% months, if you're doing 3% months, so you have an average ratio to get defined and understand. The next piece of controlling your finances is identifying how much earned income at the end of every single month you can use to go into your investment fund, your investment account that you're scaling. So I said if you had $5,000 in expenses every single month, right, that's what you have to reach in your investments with a 10% return, 6% return, or even 3% return. But if you're making $6,000 a month in earned income, then you can take $1,000 every single month and allocate that towards reaching that 10, 6, and 3% pot. Meaning if you had $6,000 a month coming in with your expenses at $5,000 and you could allocate $1,000 every single month to go into your investment pot, then it would take you 4 years to reach $50,000 at 10% a month. It would take you 7 years to reach $83,000 at 6% a month, and it would take you about 14 years to reach $166,000 at 3% a month. Now, some of you are saying, well, that's going to take way too long. 4 years, 7 years, 14 years to get to a point where it's $5,000 a month? And my response to that is always two things. One, well, we're talking about you reaching a point where you're earning enough money to cover all of your expenses and bills, meaning if there's something you're doing that you don't love or you don't enjoy, you could actually stop doing it in order to live the life you want to live because your bills are covered by your passive income investments. Seems worth it to me for 4, 7, or 14 years. And the other thing is if that seems too long, then develop a side hustle to speed up that process. You can find another way to generate income besides just your job or your business to increase your income monthly so you have more money to allocate into those investment accounts to then reduce the time that it's going to take for you to reach that point where you have absolute freedom and choice of what you're doing. And I recommend this all the time, especially in the 21st century. Go start other businesses. Go work on other things to create more income. Just a perfect example of this. Instead of that $1,000 you can allocate, if you would figure out a way to get another $1,000 in, so $2,000 a month into these different accounts, you just cut that time in half. Meaning to reach $50,000, instead of you taking 4 years, it can take 2. To make $83,000 in an investment account, instead of it taking 7 years, it can take 3.5. And instead of having to take 14 years to get $166,000, you can do it in half that time and do it in 7 years. Meaning, just having a little bit of a side income and being disciplined enough to invest that into those different brackets with those monthly returns can then make it so much faster for you to hit your goals. Now, for me personally, I was able to do this just in a few years. Again, being completely broke, living on my friend's couch, to be able to have complete financial independence. So if I can do that, you have the skills to be able to take control of your finances as well. So the last point is, where do you actually go to find those different opportunities in the financial markets to benefit from these returns? Let's say you're doing everything that I said in this video to try and take control of your finances. You have your funds going in every single month, you're paying off your credit card debt, you understand your expenses, and you're allocating that into these bigger accounts you're going to scale into so you eventually have money that can be invested to get returns. Well, that's where you figure out different investment platforms that can help you. Now, there's tons in the world. I have ones that I use with my community market hackers and my business that we've created. We have lots of different opportunities. We have a huge community of thousands and thousands of people that are leveraging their income in the financial markets to get returns and be able to benefit and win. But there's tons in the world. So you have to figure out what ones make sense to you, but they are ones that exist. So figure out what those ones are in your life, and I'll make some videos in the future talking about different investment platforms and opportunities that you can choose from if you're at a place where you find that you have disposable income, and then be able to identify what you want to diversify your funds into. But once you build that whole system, you're going to be able to find a lot more clarity of mind with your finances, and it's going to make it so much easier to approach finances in a way where you don't feel intimidated, confused. You understand your goals because you broke it down in a simple system that you can win from. And it may take a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but I tell you what, the feeling you get when you have control of your finances and you can live on your own is so sweet. It's absolutely worth it, and I really, really, really couldn't recommend enough you discipline yourself to take control of your finances so you can live how you want on your own terms. Thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.